And we'll stay with our process of using the word over when we're done talking. Over.
Sounds good to me. Over.
So everybody, you've heard enough from me. I've been doing a decent job stalling, but we are now live to the team in Borneo. This is Josh C. He's the videographer on the trip. In behind him is the team of biologists that I was talking to you about. And our first interaction is going to be with the senior scientist on this team, our senior entomologist here at the ROM, Dr. Chris Darling, who is Antonio's boss. I'm going to have Antonio come up here because I may have a hard time interpreting some of his entomological talk. So, over.
Hi, Chris. Over.
Hi, how are you doing? How are things back in Toronto?
Not too bad. It's cold. It's supposed to go to 3 degrees tonight. I take it it's a little warmer there?
Yeah, it's not cold here.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, or maybe just wait.
That's good. How's the trip been so far? Over.
Oh, it's been good. Yeah, I mean, it's been like every trip. There's been sort of setbacks and ups and downs, but pretty much all of the groups have been able to get what they wanted to do, at least started. Some of the groups will be here for another couple of weeks, but we're still getting, yeah, everybody's made good progress so far. Over.
That sounds great. Is there anything from your perspective that's really cool that you've seen or observed?
I can't even hear what she's saying. How about a shorter question?
Maybe ask her to come closer to the mic.
Or closer to the mic, one of the two.
Okay. I'm closer to the mic now. Anything cool that you want to tell us about?
Excellent.
That you've seen? Over.
Well, we did make it, pretty much everybody made it to the summit of the mountain, which was good. It's quite a hike, and groups were able to do collections from the summit, nice views over the park and over the ocean, and be able to do that and get collections from there as well. So that was pretty neat.
That sounds great. Can you tell everyone how high the summit is? Because I recall that it's a pretty steep hike. Over.
Yeah, it's about 24 kilometers to get to the top. So kilometers, and it's a change in elevation from about sea level to about 2,400 meters in elevation. So yeah, it's a goodly hike.
Well, I'm glad you guys all made it. Any word on the cicadas? We saw an image of you holding some, I guess.
Oh. Yeah, well, in fact, we've been doing fairly, not as well as we had liked, but you never do as well as you would have liked. But we have got quite a number of cicadas, and it'll be interesting to see how it all fits in. Here's a couple of examples here. I don't know if you're going to see this.
Maybe.
Oh.
So here's one of the specimens, fairly large cicadas, larger than the ones we have at home. Here's another specimen here. So these are part of our collections from one of the camps along the way. And what we're doing is trying to resample these insects that were sampled about 35 years ago to see if there's been any changes. So yeah, we've been able to get a goodly number of cicadas. We're also collecting moths for the same purpose. Let me show you some of the moths. Right there. So here's some of the moths that we've field collected. So these have been basically just collected off of the sheet and then quickly pinned, and they'll be pinned again when we get them home and made sort of prettier, if you will, better organized. But this is the way we're actually preparing the material here in the field. It's kind of fun sitting out under a tarp in the rain, sort of doing this sort of thing when we're here. So we spent a couple of days doing that as well, preparing the material in the field. This is really the first time we've been back at headquarters here for about at least 15 days. Some people have been out for 15 days, some have been out for 20 days, and all of those times have been basically in smaller camps or in basically sleeping in the forest in our hammocks.
It sounds fun.
Oh.
So, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, fun isn't the word that comes to mind right now after having done it for 15 days, but if you think it's fun, you can come over and give it a try.
I was kidding. Maybe next time. The moths you collected at the blacklight. How have you been collecting the cicadas? Over. How have you been collecting the cicadas?
At the blacklight.
At the blacklight as well?
In fact, part of the challenge here, and I should say that pretty much every group here would say that the success, any success that we have had has been due to the local people who have helped us, the porters, because they basically carried our gear up and down the mountain numerous times. We've probably had 15 or 20 people working for us over the last couple of weeks, moving gear up and down the mountain, and without them, we'd basically be sitting here drinking coffee still.
Hey Chris, it's Dave again. I'm just going to ask some questions from the audience for you. If you can just stand by, I'm going to bring a couple audience members up to ask a question. Over.
Okay.
It's superhero night here, just in case you were wondering.
Hey, Dave.
Oh.
Chris.
Oh, Chris, sorry.
Let me get some
everybody looked pretty much normal to me.
It's Toronto. It's a Friday night. Why not?
So Chris, the theme of Friday Night Live tonight is superheroes, and believe it or not, we're plugging the ROM Biodiversity Curatorial team in Borneo as futuristic superheroes because you guys are 12 hours in the future, so that's your superpower. Over.
Well, well. I'm not sure how to respond to that.
You don't have to, over. I've got a couple guys here to ask you a question. You got a question for Chris Starling, our senior entomologist.
All right, I'd like to hear what they have to say.
I would discuss with my colleague Wally over here. How fast can you collect butterflies? Because he can do it pretty quickly. I'm just wondering. You don't.
Closer to the mic, please.
Stand up.
Mike's here.
Okay. I was saying, how quickly can you collect butterflies? Because my friend here can collect them pretty quickly.
Flash.
You are 12 hours ahead, so you get a head start.
Sorry, how do you collect butterflies?
How fast?
That's what the question was? Sorry, what was the question?
How quickly can you collect butterflies? I feel like it's a joke you're making with people.
How quickly can you collect butterflies?
Can I say that?
You can say that.
I don't really. What do you mean, how quickly? I mean, how many per hour, or how many seconds does it take to catch a butterfly? I mean, I don't know exactly what the question is.
How many per second? Because I can get about 1,000 per second.
Oh, I see. This is a funny question. Sorry, I'm not. 400 per second is the world record for superheroes.
For superheroes, it's 400 per second. Do we have any other questions from the audience on any level for our senior curator? Yeah, go ahead. Chris, it's Dave here again. We have a question from the audience about beetles. Have you been looking at beetles? Have you found any beetles in your traps? And if so, what are some of the more remarkable finds that you've seen? Over.
I'll turn that over to my colleague, Brad.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Brad.
So, the question, if I heard, was what kind of beetles have we seen? We've encountered lots of dung beetles because there are no flush toilets in the forest. And at Camp 1, which is the camp at the lowest elevation at about 200 meters, we found Darwin's violin beetle. So that was pretty cool, and it was just on the side of the building. Found lots of, well, I shouldn't say lots, but we've seen click beetles coming into our sheets late at night, so those are interesting too. Over.
Great, thanks, Brad. Brad, we are here with about 60, 65 people, some dressed up as superheroes, but all of whom have come for a Friday Night Live program. Can you just take a big step back and tell our audience why the ROM is in Borneo in the first place, and specifically how you're doing there and what this has done for you in your life? Over.
Okay, let me work backwards. What it's done for me in my life, climbing from roughly sea level to 2,400 meters in elevation, probably cost me about 20 pounds off my waistline. It was quite the arduous trek, but it was very fulfilling and rewarding. Chris and I stayed up at the summit for 2 nights at 2,400 meters in the cold, the rain, and more mud than I ever could possibly imagine. But it's an experience that I'll always cherish and remember. Why we're here, this is a wonderful forest. Mulu National Park is the crown jewel in Malaysia's national park system. So we're here doing biodiversity surveys of insects, fungi, and mammals.
Over. Thanks, Brad.
And delayed over.
So, Brad, I was telling everyone, ROM Biodiversity is also interested in the long-term surveying of these different areas. So, do we have plans to continue our research in Borneo? Have we made relationships there that will allow us to come back again in the future? Over.
I'm going to turn that back over to Chris for you.
Bye, Brian.
Yeah, we certainly have. Our research here is supported by Sarawak Forestry, which, interestingly enough, is the government department that's responsible for national parks and for basically natural resources. And they've been most helpful. We've worked in 2 or 3 different sites in Sarawak already, Sarawak being the Malaysian part of North Borneo. And again, our work is also fairly well tied in with some of the World Wildlife Fund initiatives that relate to the heart of Borneo being the upland regions in the center of the island, which have had much less logging and various other sorts of land use, extractive land uses. So yeah, no, we have long-term plans to do more work here and already have done some of that work.
Excellent. I'm going to take another question from the audience here.
Our time is good.
Hey, Chris.
Here we go.
We have a couple questions about ants. Have you guys seen leafcutter ants? Have you seen biting ants? Have you seen any other kinds of ant species? Over.
We haven't seen leafcutter ants because they don't occur here. We've been a number of times. We have in fact been stung by ants when we've been walking around. They're fairly ubiquitous, an important part of the forest. So I think every one of us has been stung by ants, but nothing too severe. The more extreme stinging that's occurred is actually from wasps. At night, when we have our lights up, wasps are attracted to the sheet, as are cicadas and moths. And we're wearing headlights, of course, when we're looking at the sheet. They tend to fly into your face when they see the headlamps. And 2 of our party, both Brad and Josh, have been stung by these fairly noxious wasps. They're similar to yellow jackets you would see at home, but I have it on good authority that they hurt more than your standard yellow jackets.
Cool. Well, not cool, but can you tell us a little bit about Josh's foot? How is his foot doing? And I guess it was this wasp that got him on the foot. Over.
Amputation very, very well. Healing nicely, and the prostate will be delivered by DHL early next week.
Any other questions out there for everybody who's new here? We're dialed in live to Borneo. This is Dr. Chris Darling. He's in the jungles of Borneo right now. Our connection was a bit faulty, so he's in a cafeteria at the research base, and we're live talking to them now. Go ahead.
Yes. Stand up.
You can come on up. I'd love you to.
Okay. See if I can traverse.
And scream into the mic.
Closer to the mic, yeah. We are talking halfway around.
Halfway around the world. My question to you is, with the specimens that you're collecting, are you going to be comparing them to earlier species collected to look at the health? Over. If that makes any sense.
Very good. Yeah.
Where's he gone?
It might have frozen.
I saw that, the satellite, lost in space. Okay.
Yes. So as the guys are technically trying to fix that, I can actually help with that. This is a really great question. And to interpret the question, what our friend has asked is, have the teams gone there with any background data that they want to compare it against? And in fact, what Chris had explained earlier to a different audience was that the Royal Geological Survey of the UK has actually been to Borneo 35 years ago and collected a very extensive survey of cicadas, those noisy bugs that you hear around this time of year. They're going back now, 30 years later, to collect the same species of cicada, and the research grant is hypothesizing that if those cicada populations change their range along the mountain slope, then we can relate that back to climate change and the changing pattern of habitat use on the mountain.
Exactly, it's a small one.
The size, the health of the individuals, probably not so much, but at population level, where are those populations moving? How big? How distributed are they?
I think this is a small one for us because last year we didn't at all.
Eventually,
it would take
our mammal biologist was telling us this morning their big news